this trip wasn't meant to be a hardcore dive mission, and that's because Aruba isn't a hardcore dive destination, but it is an amazing resort getaway with easy access to clear, warm water, reefs, and wrecks, which is basically all you can ask for. So this trip was supposed to be part vacation, part reef recharge. Still, I packed all my gear, my camera rig, and I had set myself one big goal, and that was to learn underwater photogrammetry. All right, quick photogrammetry crash course. Let's say I want to make a 3D model of this seahorse right here. If I just take one photo, cool, I've got a picture, but a 3D model needs depth. So instead, I take a bunch of photos all the way around the object, right? Picture here, picture here, picture here, picture here, picture here. So what we do is we take these photos from all these different angles and we feed those into a software system that finds shared points between them. So it's sort of like, hey, I see this dot, right, appears in this image and this image and this image and this image. Basically, because we're capturing that same point from multiple angles, the camera is then able to triangulate, the distance between those various points and actually the distance between the camera itself. So we're basically extracting distance and data from the motion of the camera and the overlapping points. And this creates a database with all these different points, all with the relative distances between the cameras, between each other. And it starts with hundreds of points, then we get up to thousands of points, then we get up to tens of thousands of points. And that's enough to match a lot across images. We take all those points, all those different spaces, we combine them together, and boom, you get a 3D shape. Now, doing that at my desk with a small object, that's easy. Doing it underwater with currents, with silt, with fish, and a GoPro that just absolutely hates low light, that is way harder. Enough yapping, let's dive in. We take our giant stride, and the second I hit the water, literally the second I hit the water, there's a sea turtle right at the surface. He's just chilling, like it was waiting for us. Best dive welcome ever. We drop down and it's a beautiful Caribbean dive day. Sunlight slices through the water while schools of fish dart around coral heads. Butterfly fish are a favorite of mine, but of course if you looked at the channel thumbnail, you would already know that. I'm scanning the reef and getting a feel for the light and movement when all of a sudden something catches my eye. It looks like nothing, just a rock, but then it blinks at me. It's a stonefish, perfectly camouflaged and absolutely not something that you want to step on. A few minutes later, another sea turtle cruises by. This one is bigger, older, and he's missing a fin, but the way it swam, smooth, confident, still in control. The old guy still got it. After a few reef dives, it was time to focus on the real challenge at hand, underwater photogrammetry. So we headed out to a large wreck. This huge steel ship resting on the seabed. It had that eerie stillness that wrecks get, like it's holding its breath. We explored it for a while, taking in the scale, the details, the way that nature had started to reclaim this shipwreck. I said hi to my dive buddy through a hole in the wreck. Hey there, dive buddy. Then I started my scan. And right away, I realized this isn't gonna work. This is gonna be a really hard one. Photogrammetry works best with lots of texture and detail, clear points that the software can match across dozens or even hundreds of overlapping photos. But this wreck, it was just too big. There's big flat open surfaces, they all looked the same, mostly the same steel color, not enough contrast. It was really hard for the software to get a read on unique points. I tried focusing on this propeller, which is something smaller and more contained, but even that didn't give me a usable model. I mean, here's a copy of the model. I got parts of it, but there are huge holes and it just didn't work well. It was a little frustrating, but every attempt and every failure teaches you something. And this dive gave me a better sense of what does and doesn't work. Plus, of course, it was just an incredible wreck to see up close. Not a bad dive, not much to complain about. After a few misses, I finally found the right target. A plane wreck. More specifically, a single propeller resting upright on the sand. Now this was a subject that was compact, it was weathered, it was full of coral incrustation, the sort of things that give it plenty of texture and unique identifying points, which is exactly the kind of subject that photogrammetry loves. This time, I slowed everything down. I circled the propeller slowly with my GoPro, keeping a steady distance and making sure I got full coverage from all angles. Top, sides, low angles, even a few passes overhead. Back on land, I pulled all of the footage into my computer and started breaking it down. So the first step, we had to actually extract still frames from the video. I had filmed this with a GoPro. Normally you would do it with a camera, but I hadn't. So we have to take hundreds and hundreds of still frames from the photo, clean these images up, and then feed them into the photogrammetry software. And that's where the magic starts. The software looks for patterns, those tiny details that show up in multiple images. Then it figures out where each photo fits in 3D space. It begins by aligning the images, finding those matching points across the set. You can see here all of those matching lines where the software has found similar objects across multiple photos. Once the software is confident, it generates a cloud of points, almost like a ghost version of the object. Then it builds a mesh, connecting those points to form a 3D shape. And finally, it wraps the real photo textures around that mesh to create a photorealistic model. And this time, it worked. We got a full 3D model of the propeller. It's a snapshot of history underwater, captured in 3D. Now, back on the dive, I kept going and was able to find another part of the plane. This was a bigger piece of wreckage, which included the fuselage and the wings. So using what I had learned, I was able to capture a 3D model here as well. Now, these aren't the world's greatest models ever, but this was a second success. It's so cool to see the same wreck that I've been diving in real life, but in full 3D. And it's fully explorable, right? These models can be uploaded, embedded, and studied. I mean, all right, not these wrecks. There's not much that historians would learn from this particular airplane, but that's the potential of this technology, and it has huge potential. It's a way to preserve underwater history, especially as sites like this face storms, rust, and time. Shipwrecks aren't forever. So, as the old saying goes, right? Take only pictures, leave only bubbles. That's a famous scuba motto. Well, now you can do even more with your photos. You can turn them into models and digital stories. This is going to be my new favorite dive souvenir to take home for my trip. And to be clear, these are bad models, at least relative to others out there. There are some amazing 3D modelers out there, and they're doing incredible work. So, for instance, check out Brett Eldridge. He runs this incredible blog, Wrecked in My Revo. He dives a Revo rebreather, and he has just some absolutely stunning scans. And those scans, by the way, are truly of historically significant and often undived shipwrecks. Check them out if you find this stuff interesting. And by the way, you can check out my scans. Even you can click on the link below in the description and see the links that I uploaded. Anyways, it was a great learning experience. I'm going to keep working on my skills. Maybe I'll get closer to what Brett can do someday, but it's an amazing technology. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning it. I hope you found this to be a cool story, and I hope you play around with these techniques and these tools a little bit more. If you have any questions about how it's scanned and how it works, leave them in the comments. I'm happy to help you out. And if you have any suggestions for wrecks or reefs or anything that you think I should scan underwater, also put those in the comments. I'll check them out on my next dive trip. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this one. It's another episode of Submerged Stories. We'll see you around next time. Bye.